Rolling it. Boom, boom, boom. Hello and welcome to Casually Hardcore episode number 69. So the child in me is giggling on the inside. We're joined today with MrHappy and aka Chris, known as Gaming Kinda. Welcome everybody to the podcast. We've got a lot to talk about. Hopefully you guys are as excited as I am for the future of Final Fantasy XVI. I've got a laugh out of Happy with that intro. It's
69, yeah. I was about to take a sip of coffee and all I heard was... Yeah.
There you go. So, Chris, Happy, what's happening? How are you guys doing? Chris, we're also live on Twitch right now. Go ahead, Haps.
You said 16. You're ahead of the game.
What, 16?
You said 16, not 14.
Oh.
You did.
Oh.
You're excited
I'm
for
excited
that
about
too.
16. Yeah, it's like,
Yeah,
come, let's find out what's going on. So, Final Fantasy XIV 6.0. Would that be a freaking twist? They're like, by the way, it's 16. Like, I don't think it is.
That's the prediction right there.
Oh, dude, how mind-bending would that be?
That's so weird. Their release dates are the same.
Yeah. Huh. Well, interesting. Okay, cool. Got it. So, Haps, what's happening with you, dude? We've got a lot to talk about. We got three big subjects, but how is stream going? How's YouTube going? How's Final Fantasy XIV going for you?
It's January, so YouTube's terrible, but we do it all the same. Twitch is fine. January's quiet, which is weird because it's not going to be very soon. And otherwise, everything's fine. I'm just cooking meat and doing this, and that's all I need. It's only two things I need in life.
Cooking meat and some video games.
And coffee.
Yeah, those are yeah, that's true. That's true. And these are things other than family, by the way, which is I feel like a given. Yeah.
Awesome. So Chris, what's going on with you, man? How's life? It's been a while since we've actually done the podcast, but you've been working hard to get this thing spun back up. What's going on?
I moved into full-time content creation.
Congratulations.
So, Brian still worked a game, but I'm moving into game to work. So, it's a shift. You get a lot more done in a week. It starts to make more sense how Happy has so much more done in 14 than me.
Oh, really?
Like, it's like, oh, imagine that. More hours adds up. Because now I'm playing more per week than I was doing per month. And so it adds up. I got all my tanks to cap. I got all my crafters to cap. All my gathers were already at cap. Got to enjoy Ishgard. Just capped to rank 15 in Boja finally. Got my Castrum clear. Like, it's like, wow. I'm hitting all my goals.
Happy, actually, you helped him get his
You
clear.
did. I owe you a
I didn't know that. What, was I in that group?
I would have wiped it. Yeah. You were one of the ones leading it. You were giving advice, telling us where to go. And then,
/ yell, knockback, don't move. Knockback,
like,
don't move.
I really appreciate this. I owe Happy a huge thank you. It was not my first time in Castrum.
I have to do it.
You were just the one that was there when I actually got a clear, and I was super nervous. I was like, what if 545 comes out and it's required to have cleared Castrum, and I can't find a group?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, that's what you get for doing it while it's content, like that it's current. Like, how, like, it's not like it's 2025 and I'm like, oh, I can't find a Castrum clear. Well, yeah, no, like, what did I do wrong? Oh, you were more than 2 weeks late. That's what you get. Like,
shame on you.
That's your big sin.
Yeah. You should have known. Honestly, it's one of the most intriguing things where I'm so glad I got it done, and then that way I wasn't feeling any pressure. But I got a question, Haps. What really kind of drove you back into it? Were you doing it for the community? Were you doing it for the coins? Were you doing it for the lulz? What's up?
Deliverance Savage is on Tuesday, and I need everything. We have a 48-man group. We'll be progging it day one, going as fast as we can, like we did with Baldesion.
Yeah.
And I need everything. I need the augments. I need more actions. I need everything.
So what's the what's your expectation going into that Savage for that for Tuesday? Because obviously lots of content. Like, you're going with the Savage mode. You're not really rocking the blue first.
I'm really disappointed they're the same day. Beyond disappointed.
I know, right? Like, come on.
I expect it to be like Baldesion. The only thing is what happens when you die, because it's not like there's a zone to kick you out into. It's its own instance. So does this going to put you in spectator mode, like it's Titan and you fell off, or what's going to happen with this?
Do we lose metal?
Definitely going to lose metal. I have no doubt about that.
Losing metal and not gaining metal doesn't feel great.
That's one of the biggest problems.
It's a little easier
with
because you don't level down though. Like the thing is that once you hit that rank, you're kind of
I get why.
But the rank's going to go up again in 5.5 probably. And or even maybe this patch will go up.
I would expect that actually, depending on what is all delivered with it, because we are getting the new raid, but like they're talking about like the new zone. Like, are we getting a new zone with this? Or
not till 5.5x.
Man, that's a big gap between, you know.
We have a 24 man with no role restrictions and a 48-man savage.
Okay, that's wild. So then I guess the question would be like, being that you expect it to be like Baldesion Arsenal, Chris and I didn't get to participate in Baldesion Arsenal. We got off the Eureka train, and I went to play 11 because I was like, oh.
That's what Pagos did to me. I did Pagos. I'm like, you want me to play 11? I'll play 11.
Yeah. That's exactly what I did. I was like, fine. And then ultimately, Chris is leaning off screen. It looks like your head is his right now, wherever he was doing.
Maybe it is.
My third monitor is my TV, so anytime I have to check anything, I have to lean around to check it and make sure everything's still working.
Nice.
Okay, so to kind of transition to these topics, because I think breaking this into 3 logical parts is the way to do this. I think the first part that we have to talk about is like, what do we want from the event? Obviously, a typical would have been 3 very real, very large events to build up an expansion. Which may or may not have timed well with patches, but now we've moved to all digital, and this is part 1. We know there's things cut. I mean, it already was intended to be a 14-hour thing, and it already has shortened. It'll still be long for those of us covering the whole thing in one sitting because there's a live letter as the back half, but it's not 14 hours. So, like, what do we expect to get cut? I assume Q&As, things like that, and then what do we still expect to, like, do we still open with a trailer and then the title?
So specifically, to be clear, it wasn't the announcement stream that was cut. The 14-hour broadcast was going to be like, you know, like the anniversaries where they do 14 hours. They do they bring out like one person and talk to them. They do it maybe like a panel. They sit on that round couch, and for some reason, Foxconn is dressed in the most awkward outfit I've ever seen in my life. All of the announcement portion, nothing's cut. That's everything that we were going to get that was going to be like a raw announcement. That's going to be exactly the same. So I just expect more information about who worked on this, you know, like a panel with the person who wrote the story, maybe if it was Ishikawa, or, you know, somebody with the lead combat designer, or somebody talking, like doing a panel about the design of Beastmaster, if that gets announced. You know, those are the things I expect, the more nitty gritty, and we'll get that in May, probably. Okay. But all the information, the trailer, not the whole trailer, mind you. I don't think we're getting the whole trailer, but the trailer and any details that they've planned to announce, those should stay the same.
So what do you want from the announcement? Focusing, not worrying about 5.5. We're all, I think, I would say, starved for information for Final Fantasy. What do we want? What do you want specifically? Because we've done this before. This isn't our first rodeo. Like, just maybe start with like setting it in reality, and then essentially say what would make MrHappy like fall out of your chair, drop some explicitives on stream with like you're doing it with Athos and I forget Sly
Athos, the 3 of the 4 horsemen.
Cool. So you guys be sure to check out their live stream and live reactions as well.
Is there a lore quiz in the intermission? Those are so much fun to watch.
I hope not, because I've already done very poorly on those.
Go on, Brian. Sorry.
No, it was more, that was my question. Like, what do you want? Like, setting it in reality, because I think it's important to start with that. But then what makes you lose your mind? What's the thing that you want to see Yoshipi talk about on the 5th?
So I think reality is about 2/3 of the information we would have gotten from the traditional fan fests. It's the blow my mind is everything that we would have gotten, but that's already not possible. The trailer should be generally when they do the trailers at the start of fan fest, it's like a minute teaser, then like a slightly extended version, then the finished version, which usually has like spoilers for whatever the last story patch is. That we won't get that. We won't get the finished trailer. We'll get like the extended cut of whatever trailer they want to show. I think realistically, minimum 1 job reveal. Of course, optimistically is if they do everything, if there are 2 jobs being revealed, Obviously, things like the location, the raid series, the 24-man. I think a lot of people wonder, how can you cram 3 FanFests worth of information? But every FanFest, the first 30 minutes is a recap. And then they still go back to every point. Like, we told you there's a new raid. We're going to tell you what it is now. They don't have to do that. There's so much overlap from topic to topic. So I think it's realistic that even though there is another official digital FanFest planned for May, that I feel like that's more for us in terms of like we didn't get one at all. Whereas this is like, okay, everything we can spare to tell you, we will tell you now, as long as we're not waiting for something to happen in 5.5. I think Beastmaster's limited job is going to be there. That's going to be highly contentious of a topic when it comes around. And then I think the thing that'll blow my mind is if we see us going to the moon.
Oh yeah, you think we're going? The Lunarians coming into play here with 6.0?
I think 5.4 has told us all we really need to know, and we're going to the moon. Okay,
Brian, can you imagine a Destiny 2 crossover? There's your mind blowing.
That would be
which moon are we going to?
I mean, Yoshi P wants to do the World of Warcraft collab at some point, so
that would be amazing.
So Chris, same question to you. Like, setting your expectations in reality, and then let's go to the moon. Like, what to the moon? Hold the line. Go ahead.
If I'm ever in doubt of what reality is, I can go watch a Happy video that's going to do a rundown of things, and like, there's nobody that's going to know more accurately what's there. So like, just blatant open flattery there. Like you hit all the points, right? That's what sums up our, is the next raid series a crossover? If so, are they going to introduce who's handling it? They're not going to reveal anything story based. They're not going to reveal the trial fights. It's going to be question marks, and it's going to be like, but with the first patch, there'll be a dungeon. There'll be and it's just not, it's not going to tell you anything. But I think revealing the location will be exciting. Getting a title will be exciting. Trailers, while they're not based in being necessarily cutscenes, they're not necessarily, Ethos has pointed out, they're not canon. They are exciting and they're hype. And that's so that they're avoid being spoilery. But like, I think starting to hear the beginning of a soundtrack would be amazing. Shadowbringers has blown us away musically. So getting some feel for what the tone is going to be. I would love to see them kind of have some statements beyond that address. One of the things I really appreciate about Shadowbringers as a filthy story skipper is that Yoshi P recommended that, hey, you can hop back on here. Like, you don't have to be aware. And like, that gave me a chance as somebody that I have an immense amount of respect for. When he said that, it's like, okay, I'm going to do this. Like, he said, I'm going to do this. And I fell in love with the story in Shadowbringers. And yes, there are times that somebody appears and it's a face reveal and it means nothing to me. Like, it means nothing. And so like, everybody's like, oh my gosh. And like, yes, those moments passed me by, but the vast majority was, okay, you gave me like a brief little epithet about like who this person is. That was enough that I can keep up. And now I have other questions, and I've started another character, and I'm playing through stuff that I missed since I've been playing through my ARR. So like, I'm having a Sprout experience as a long time player. And that's thanks to Shadowbringers. And I hope we do that again. I hope this is written in a way where this expansion can invite people in, people that say, you know what, I just want to play what I see on stream. I just want to play what my friends are playing. And if they were to, buy a story skip or a character skip and hop into the expansion, it's an invitation in. And we're not going to, one of the things I really appreciate about Shadowbringers is we didn't leave people behind who didn't have 300 to 500 hours of experience in the game or more. So like, that's something I would like to be right from the outset of 6.0, make it really clear. Like, this is yet another invitation into a game that's meant a pretty large deal to me. I don't know. And that's something that I think was very clear from the very first FanFest last time. Yeah.
Anything gets you to fall out of your chair, lose your mind, just downright, like, join me with some F-bombs.
I won't fall out of my chair if they do the Xbox announcement. But I will be extremely excited because it's utterly not needed at this event, but it is something that I want. And so like, whenever it gets here, it'll be that long awaited thing that like, I'm really thrilled about. The Xbox announcement would be big. To get me to fall out of my chair is like, we wanted Phil to come on stage, but it really wouldn't have been fair to the fact that it's also coming to Nintendo Switch. Like, that would be the thing that's just like, no freaking way. No way. No way. That's impossible. That almost made Happy fall out of his chair now. Like, that's no
is
way.
This really falling? It's funny because before you even said Switch, the meme was the guy looking at, it's a guy looking at a picture and he's like, And then the second picture happens. He's like, that's exactly what I meant. I was like, it's coming to Xbox and Switch.
I just
exactly what went through my mind.
I mean, we support PlayStation, so like, why not other consoles? So I would love to see it come to Xbox. We believe it's coming to Xbox. This would be the time to announce, in my opinion. A crossover event is another opportunity, regardless of who it is. A crossover event, and then the more I'm attached to whatever the crossover is with, is the more I fall out of the chair. But I know that, like, when Nier was announced, I wasn't attached to Nier, and for other people that meant a lot. For other people, that was really exciting. Nier's not a game I played.
So when the Xbox announcement happens, is that the Master Chief? Is that a Halo Infinite crossover?
Well, the great thing about the Halo Infinite crossover is it never has to happen because the game's never coming out. They're just going to see how much money they can spend developing something.
That's
true. In Halo Infinite development time. Infinite Microsoft money.
But the Xbox is powerful enough, and the Xbox has a platform where they can decide, how do we want to do this? So and then the question from there is, how does that roll out, right? Is the free trial all the way through Stormblood with Xbox Game Pass? And that's just a question of money. That's just a question of how much does Xbox give Final Fantasy on the back end to make this happen. And we won't ever know the number, but we'll all speculate, just like with a Ninja deal here on Twitch to Mixer.
We were right about the Ninja deal. We were right about the Ninja deal.
Somewhere there's
a
number. And if Microsoft,
most people, I feel like we're right about that.
If Microsoft throws out a number, then that's something that I'm excited about. I think gameplay wise, I'm just excited to have more game. Some small part of me is concerned that Shadowbringers was so good that I didn't go into I went into Shadowbringers like, oh, this will be as good as Stormblood, and then I was blown away. And now I'm like, cool, let's give me another Shadowbringers. And that's not fair. That's we could have a great game and it doesn't have to blow the doors off Shadowbringers. So that's my concern with the event, but I'm just excited to finally get some news. I think 2020 stretched on forever, and it's nice to finally be doing this. I wish we were doing it in person, but we're here now.
Yeah, I think that would be something that would be truly game-changing in terms of when you kind of think of what could have been. One of the things that I've been talking about with a lot of the players is they're just talking about their frustration with the current state of the game, and it's that traditionally the current state of the game isn't shocking to me. It's, you've been on this rodeo, here's your raids, here's your tomes, here's the content, but it's also married with the fact of either what job is coming, or we know what job is coming, how do we think it's all going to work. It's married by what's coming next, and we've had not just a drought in a couple of pieces of content throughout 2020, but a drought in what's coming next. Where are we going with this thing? Because I want to be excited for it. That excitement can help just survive the whole concept of it doesn't necessarily mean that I need to get another relic, but I'm going to, because it's going to look amazing, and then I'm going to be able to glamour that in 2 years when we're talking about 7.0. Before the show, Happy and I were talking about just the fact that we probably will never see Scholar and Summoner separated, but I'm going to say I'll reverse the question for me. The thing that would make me fall out of my chair is if it's not 6.0, but if Yoshi P goes, and then in 7.0, new engine, 1,000 years in the future, and we finally figured out how to separate Summoner and Scholar from the class system. Since it's the only one, once they got rid of, made all the changes with 5.0, I was like, they'll never bring in another job on top of a class again, because we were talking about Geomancer, how I would have loved to see Geomancer be another job off of Conjurer. I think that would have been something really cool to see. So there's several jobs that I would love to see them kind of just sprinkle them into the current class structure, but we're not, unfortunately, going to be getting that in that case. So that would be the thing that makes me fall out of the chair. Xbox wouldn't make me fall out of the chair, but I want it so bad. I think there's everybody's asking, when's it coming? Phil Spencer says it's coming. Yoshi P says we're working on it. It's but when, is it going in? And then to the point where it's it just makes sense to have it with the expansion. And if it doesn't make the expansion, are we talking about another 2 years? Are we continually kicking this can down the street? Go ahead, MrHappy.
I love that you keep talking about the Xbox version and haven't even mentioned just an actual PS5 client. That hasn't even come up once, because it's a given.
I would say that's guaranteed. I would say that's guaranteed. I
think that's what happens though. They do the PS5 announcement, and they go, and there you go.
Yeah, this is our new console client. Why'd they say console? Oh.
And you know what? Actually, Xbox finally made at least one of the two moves they needed to pave the way for this recently. Because after they made a kerfuffle, a huge one recently, with doubling the cost of their. They've reversed that change.
Like there has to be something we're not knowing. They can't.
Yes.
They can't be this dumb.
Yeah.
They can't.
It's here's the thing about that whole when we say kerfuffle, like if you think in hindsight, it could have been so much better. They could have come out and say, "Hey, we're going to remove the gold requirement for free to play games."
Yes.
Xbox is great. They're amazing. No, they go, "Hey, we're going to double the cost and you're not getting anything for it." F you. Oh, guys, we're back in track. And at least they listened and responded appropriately. But you think about it, like you could have managed that entire day. And you could have come out looking like a hero rather than an idiot. And but at least
I think idiot was the only route, honestly. I think it was the only one way to go.
That's how it ended up happening. I was like, they doubled the cost. I was like, they just need to get rid of it. But it's like, oh, okay, we're going to double the cost. And by the way, it's going to be 10 times better. And here's how it is. That took me all the way back to 2013 when they were like, hey, by the way, like this is, you can't trade games. You can't do all these things, but you can do some really, but they were like, when they did that, they were like, you can do some really cool stuff, but we can't show it to you yet. Like it was such a marketing problem because it's like, they talked about like, we can have family share. Like there's all these like systems that they were talking about putting in, but they couldn't display them because they weren't ready. And so, yeah, like the internet's like, why are you taking something away? And I'm not getting anything for it, only the promise of something that might happen. Maybe. Anyway, long story short, I would make Xbox would be a great thing. And then overall, I think my only concern going in, I'm glad I'm going third, so I'm slightly the negative one here. My only concern is that we've been to so many of these fan fests that it's going to be yes, the level cap is increasing. Yes, you're getting some dungeons. Yes, there's going to be more story. Did he say we're getting new story? Like, oh, that was the announcement I was waiting for. Right. Like, like I hope that
and the line on the slide will be like, you're getting a full RPG worth of story or whatever, which should be impressive. But it's like,
but I get that every time.
Yeah, I get that every year.
I get that every year. And then essentially, like, my hope is that they take this opportunity, being that there's no live audience, that they kind of rethink how they just decide their presentation, because people aren't going to be, they won't be able to hear the screams and the cheers and things like that. So it's like, hopefully this is a good opportunity.
They push a button.
Turn around, Yoshi P. Show us your damn shirt. Oh my goodness.
And gotta call into the Zoom.
In his interview with Gamerscape, he goes, I guess I should think about what shirt I'm going to wear. Oh yeah, you're just now thinking of that? No, you're not.
Hot topic.
So that's the end of segment one.
Yeah. Hot topic before we transition. Okay. Male Vieira? Yes. No.
No.
No. Yeah, we're all no's.
I made that mistake once before. I'm not making it again.
No.
All right. Let's transition to our second topic. What do we think that they're going to leave to announce later? Happy, you already talked about the Digital Fan Fest, thinking that's kind of more in line with us. So yeah, like I'm gonna start with you. Like, so we Friday ends. We know 5.5 stuff is coming right after that. So I'm not going to kind of bundle that in. But sometime around May in the summer, like, what are they saving for us to announce? What do you think?
So I think the 24-man raid series, we will not find out what it is. I think it will be another extravagant thing that we didn't ask for, like Nier was, and that they will save that for May. And they will bring on the guest developer, whoever it may be, and that's going to be at the Digital Fan Fest. I think the full trailer is obviously a gimme, because we have to wait for 5.5 to come out. Mm-hmm. And I do think that there's going to be, the question is less, what are they? It's not what are they saving, it's just what are they not telling us yet, for me. Which sounds like the same thing, but the media tour obviously not going to happen this year. So is it going to be where they do all the job actions and the job trailer? That's where we got announcements on, maybe the stat squish is, saved for that, if that's going to happen. There's a ton of stuff comes with that, but we're expecting a later expansion release than normal. So would they still do the media tour in May, like the equivalent of the presentation for that? I don't think so. I think that's actually something for even later. So I'm torn, because this has to be, that's another 3 months. That's like not one fan fest worth of information to hold off on. That's like, just things that aren't ready to show. I don't know. I'm torn on what's actually not going to be in this.
I could see them doing within that kind of mindset where we would see them show off the full trailer, like because 5.5 theoretically is out, 5.55 hopefully is either getting that conclusion going so they can kind of show off the trailer and not worry about an accidental spoiler in terms of the moon or whatever the heck is going to happen. I think essentially you're right. I don't know if you coupled what would be the traditional media tour with FanFest. I think you still save that to be closer to the release, and that's just, I would say let's assume release is September. I could see the virtualized media tour being set up in August to kind of help prepare people, and just like we did last time, like go hands on. I think essentially one of the things we're seeing them learn from like Outriders and these things, they're doing those things digitally now. And with the power of like just even cloud computing, I could see, them just say, hey, we put the client on these systems, you connect to them. So that way we don't actually have the physical installs like on our boxes in case like they were worried about some like a data miner going nuts or going ham on it. That way it's like, yeah, you just stream it and capture your stuff, and then here's the NDA, and here's that. I can see that happening later. I think the virtualized FanFest is going to be it's like a celebration as best as they can, and hopefully that means they got some kind of in-game stuff happening, and like, hey, we've been able to do this. And
you've just given me another answer, a trial.
Yeah, exactly. I think that'd be really cool.
We get a trial every FanFest. There's some sort of like, it was the Ultima the 1 year, but
yeah. But as a 24-man, like imagine if it's like, because the FanFest is like was always like on their own private servers. It'd be neat to see if they were like, okay, like they've had a year, they can kind of say, let's just push that into the game as a Unreal kind of thing.
The FanFest were even so they would connect us to a private instance server, but we were on the live servers. Like with our actual characters, they asked us not to trade with people and everything. So yeah, they've got all sorts of setups for stuff like that.
Yeah. So on that note, it'd be neat to see them just say, hey, here's this stuff, and here's this moments in time where we're all participating in it, and they could deck out the cities with all the different, all the different things. And that's one of the things that Chris and I talked about, how hopefully even going forward, when let's say the physical one returns, there's a physical and a digital thing happening at the same time. I think that would bring the community together. Oh, you weren't able to get tickets because turns out, they were sold out. Okay, well, not a problem.
The silver lining.
Put a TV screen in game.
Yeah,
that's the silver lining to 2020 is that ideally the positive things that come out of it, we don't have to give all those back to go back to normal. Hopefully people do get to keep the parts, and that extends to Final Fantasy XIV. That extends to so hopefully anything that works really well here that they weren't going to try before because they were too busy organizing an enormous amount of work. Hopefully like, okay, we really liked that we decorated the capital cities. We're going to do that again. So hopefully there is something there. I don't know if it was my turn to talk, but I will tell you that what I think is that this is a chance to do all the more fan-driven stuff. So if the first part is all the things that are going to get posted to Kotaku and IGN and all of that, this is where we get things like Q&As, and if there is a more like live letter reveal portion where they show like a job thing, that's where you find out about like the equivalence of like a tank stance added or whatever. They won't show too much because whatever they do show, we're already going to read poorly as a community because we only have the context of Shadowbringers. We're not gonna have the content to go with it, and so like that's why they don't reveal like job damage numbers, because like the numbers are kind of in a void. So like they'll show us just enough that we can start like losing our mind, but not enough to have the ability to like re-ground ourselves. And so I think that's, I would love to see that be where panels are and Q&As, and just a reminder. One of the things I think the 14 community does really well is that our devs are people, right? And we know their names, we know what they look like, they have personalities, they play in a rock band together. There's just a ridiculousness to it that I think this first one won't capture, and so that's what I'm hoping for. I think if there's a second job, that it could get pushed to there. Probably won't be, but that would be the place to do that. I don't know.
You just hit me with a really depressing thought. They can't do a concert live on Twitch. They're not going to do a concert live on Twitch. They won't. I don't know when though.
Are they going to DCMA themselves?
They could have bubbled. They could have bubbled and pre-recorded.
I'm concerned because they've specifically stated they couldn't do the Primals concert free on Twitch in the past. Like that's why they cut it from the free parts of like that. So it was only for people who were attending. I think there's a mix of music laws that go into. I don't think it's just about DMCAing themselves. So I don't think we're going to get a concert. I didn't even think about that.
Well, that's such a bummer.
Maybe they found a way. I'm going to be hopeful they found a way.
Life finds a way. I definitely agree in terms of like if there is a second job. I think that's always kind of the thing up in the air when we look at the roles and everything that's balanced. I wouldn't mind if they ended up just doing like one job. But if we get two, I think
we get a release date also, right?
They typically give the release date at the announcement. They'll be like, or
we'll get a season with this one next Friday, and then we'll get the actual date with
as it gets closer. Yeah. So like, I think that's going to be something important to see. I think obviously as the year rolls, one of the things I thought was really interesting at the media tour is that they kind of showed off other systems besides the job changes. So we got the fate updates with how like the bicola gemstones work. And I was like, that's interesting. I think essentially like, hopefully we start to see kind of newer systems and, kind of updates or showing those things off. Like when they say, let's say they say trusts are coming backwards through the previous expansions. Okay, how is that going to work? How, like maybe they show that off around the Fan Fest, kind of saying, hey, like this is, how it's going to work. And, I would think it'd be similar, but you never know. Whenever they program things in this game, it's typically from that point forward. So we don't get a lot of, downward direction in terms of like, hey, we fixed this thing in Shadowbringers. Everything else before that's still going to function the exact same way.
Hey, you say that, but Shadowbringers finally brought us every mount being able to fly.
Yeah, but see how long that took. But look how long that took.
And now we can fly an ARR.
Yeah.
Which I did not think the game needed, but I do appreciate it when I'm occasionally there.
Yeah, I think that just highlights like, hey guys, how hard is it? It's hard. Like it took that long. And we're still waiting on Eggy Glamours.
It's time for the armory chest.
You don't want to bring that up.
To get another tab. So for
you don't want to bring up Eggy Glam. You don't want to do that. Don't do that.
These are questions I don't ask.
I'm actually hopeful for it.
Serious?
For 6.0. Yeah, I think they're going to completely rework Summoner again, and part of it's going to be a whole new interface.
It needs
with
to
the
be
Eggy Glam.
After they took away like Titan's ability to tank, I have struggled so much with Summoner this whole expansion, like so much. Like it's just been like I've been working on a new controller guide because I was like, maybe if I just put a little bit more time in, maybe if I just really twist this and try to get it to work. And I'm just like, I really do not like playing Summoner right now, and I hate that because I've been a Summoner main since 2.0. And Chris's and I's video today kind of addresses this because it's like, make sure you got a backup job in case that, you're not starting at level 1 because that's important. So as far as announcements and things that I feel like they'll like announce later, I don't know. It's kind of hard. It's going to be baked off of what all 6.0, they announced here because just like I think everybody here concluded, we'll see it's kind of maybe like 1.5 to 2 point something FanFest kind of all bundled into the February announcement, and then like FanFest will be a good way for them to rehash what they've already told us, show off some of the things like we get in the second live, typically with the second live letter, like, hey, we're going to show off some of these things and go from there. Any other thoughts on this topic, Chris? Because like one question I have for the group is when Happy brought up the Alliance raid, what is that guest creator or what is that content? Because I would like to...
No idea. I would love for it to be something under the Square Enix umbrella. I just think that'd be neat. I'd love for it to be another Final Fantasy or I mean, we have so many. Square Enix is enormous. I would love for it to be in-house just because I think that there's probably some... I don't know. I think it's incredibly fan service driven. But it doesn't need to be outside of 14. It's a big enough game now. We could have a 14 driven one. I just think it will be.
Please, no more Nier.
It's too much crossover for me. It's too big of a thing.
It's
right?
too much meaningless crossover. It could have been.
It's not canon.
I think you hit it right on the head. I'm hopeful for 5.5 that it gets like where with Alexander. I didn't really enjoy Alexander until the third and final chapter, and I go, oh, I really enjoyed this because it kind of made everything connected. The whole Nier thing, I'm just like, the fights are cool. I'm so disconnected from it, especially and I'm like, is it Nier or is it the fact that I was coming off of Ivalice? And Ivalice I thought was just crushed.
Let me be clear.
Yeah.
I don't like any blind fan service. I don't like Omega because it's blind fan. It's Final Fantasy fan service, but it's blind and pointless fan service. If that's all I want to avoid. Nier didn't have to feel that way. It just does. It's nothing against Nier.
No, it wouldn't matter what game you swap it out with, right? It's too much of one game inside another game.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And it's not like Rathalos where it's one fight, right? We didn't get one Alliance raid in addition to the normal Alliance raid schedule that was Nier based. It was a whole thing. You got cutscenes, you got characters in game, you got glam, you got and so it's a lot. And so the moment that you're like, hey, I want to log into 14 to play 14, it's a lot. Especially if they, like me, like you, like anybody who didn't play Nier, then it's like, well, how am I supposed to connect to this content? It's a lot of it. It's well done. It's just a lot.
I would say
don't do it again.
I would say if they were going to do something with a guest, that kind of guest creator mindset for it, all chips on the table, Final Fantasy XI Dynamis. I think if they made a Dynamis theme Final Fantasy XI 24-man raid, that would be something that my inner heart, my inner nerd would just love. A, it's related to Final Fantasy. B, we've already had a connection to Final Fantasy XI in the game's past, so it is somewhat more connected to that aesthetic and that art style, and that would just be my ultimate dream in terms of like getting a little bit of that tap back into it. I thought Eureka was a really good kind of remembrance of Final Fantasy XI, and only that Final Fantasy XI did it far better. But that is just me. Chat's definitely saying like Kingdom Hearts.
No, well, you know what? That's not even I don't want it. That won't happen. Do you understand how difficult it is to do collaborations with Disney, with the mouse? Do you want to let the mouse in? You think it's a Square Enix property. It's a Disney property.
Is that what's wrong with Marvel Avengers right now?
No, that's a whole different story. We don't want to talk about that. That's a bad idea.
Yeah, that's gonna overextend segment number 2. All right. You ready for segment number 3?
Let's go to segment number 3. All right, okay. So what excites us the most about the future of Final Fantasy XIV?
We're there. We're in 6.0. You log in. What is it? Right?
Oh, I thought you were saying what's excited about the future. We're there.
We made it. Like, what is it? Yeah. Happy, you're up.
Oh, man. See, the thing is, when you love something a lot, nice voice crack. When you love something a lot, the way that it is, and what it is, and you look at the things that can still be better, but you still very much you're playing it and you're invested in it for a specific reason. A lot of the times, just having more of that thing you enjoy is at least an acceptable enough future. Obviously, you don't want it to drop in quality or anything along those lines, but I think over the expansions, we've seen so many lessons learned, so many adjustments made. And with Shadowbringers, it feels kind of like the apex of that, where how does it get better? Can it get better? And so I think the only thing that I'm really thinking about for the future is not to now go the opposite way back to back, because we see it with World of Warcraft, where it's just constant. It's like this. And then sometimes it's like here and then here, but then here, but then here, then here. And it's like that's what excites me is they haven't shown any sort of how do I put it? They haven't shown that they were going to follow that trend. That it is lesson learned. Doesn't stop them from trying and falling in certain aspects, but then it's lesson learned. Communication. That's why I'm always just excited to have more of it. So it's simple, having more Final Fantasy XIV, because it's only improved over time.
Chris?
I think it's been impressive. Not only has it improved, but we see things where they come out and they say something like, this isn't possible because of spaghetti code, right? We can't go back and we can't add flying to ARR. And so that gives me hope for things when you're like, we have stuff on the MOG station that's not account-wide. Why is it not account-wide? Because we only have a limited number of account-wide item IDs, and we can't use them on that. Like, that's such a bad reason for that design. That may be true. That doesn't make that an okay thing to say. And so there's things about this game that it's just a constant reminder that while it's incredible that 2.0 saved the flaws of 1.0, and is the exception to every rule. And when a game launches, there's a reason that when it relaunches, we don't expect it to succeed. A Realm Reborn is the exception, not the rule. But the downside is that they were throwing together a foundation just hoping to God to stay alive. And there wasn't the ability to bake things in a way that planned for the future. And like what I'm excited about the future of it is that they've shown us with the trust system that they can build, and yes, it's moving forward, but they can build impressive systems. They can improve the companion system. You know, they can go back and they can do these things. And so it gives me hope when there's something about the game that just gets on me. Like, I hate the market board. I find it so clunky. I don't like the way retainers work. I don't like the way it searches something. And then every once in a while, they add something that shows me they're thinking about it. Like when I was doing Ishgard restoration stuff, and I can say, you know what, just make a raw search, make a raw ingredient list for me. And it does that. Now, I can't say insert that list into the market board and just show me those items. I can't do that yet. But it's a sign that one day, what if that was possible? So I'm excited for just the everyday quality of life improvements that make the parts that kind of break my immersion. It's like, I'm having a really good time. Oh, why did it do that? Like, I just get excited when those things go away. I look forward to having, you know, one day there's going to be a second tab where we can have left and right rings not be jamming into each other. And they've learned enough from lessons like Happy saying that we're not going to it's not going to be flubbed where it's like, okay, we added a second ring tab and now you're going to find left rings and right rings. It's like, why? So like it feels like they've learned enough that when something does come, it's typically at least implemented with good intentions, whether or not it lands well. Obviously, we have things where like plenty of people don't like limited jobs, but like it was well intentioned. We want a side battle system like Deep Dungeon, like Relic, where you can go progress outside of it and it doesn't have to be balanced for content. Okay, that's a good idea. Whether or not you like the implementation is an opinion, but like the idea was well intentioned. And so I think the future of 14 for me is they seem to only be able to implement so many of those innovations per expansion. And so since I want more, the only way to get there is time.
Yeah, I think that's a real key aspect is that, and it takes sometimes a little bit of patience and a little bit of just like, okay, how do we get there? Because I could spend Square Enix money like all day. Like I could sit here and be like, my list of things that I want in this game is absurd because from like knowing how hard development is, because that's the industry I live in, you know, it's like, yeah, okay, Brian's like, oh, this quick suggestion, like when I hear like, oh, it's easy, just do whatever. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, that's like 14 months of work. Okay, and do we stop what we're working on right now? Because we started that 14 months ago or 6 months ago. That's got to get put into the queue. And then it's like, we'll just hire more resources. Like, a resource doesn't come online ready to rock and roll. Like at best case scenario, voice crack. At base case scenario, you're looking at a minimum of 3 months before they even know how to like get coffee for themselves. Like it's like, hi, welcome to Square Enix. We're this huge mega corporation. We've got so many things going on at the same time. Try not to trip. Let's go. Welcome to the show. I think essentially what I would love to see, like what I really want and what excites me about the future is that like Yoshi P has said, and I do believe that he wants to make the game that we want to play. Like he wants to actively make like a great game and he's passionate about it. I think Final Fantasy XVI, being a separate game, is a really good testament and I cannot wait to see what he does with that, with him and his team that is working on that game, because I think essentially as Final Fantasy goes, even when 15 was coming out, like I was like, guys, like the real testament to the change that Yoshi P has made in the culture is 16. There's no way that he could like make changes, save 14, and then at the same time drastically impact the development of 15, which was ongoing, starting and stopping. Square Enix's traditional, hey, we thought of a great idea. Here's a trailer. We're going to make the game here in 10 years. You know, and so hopefully with this is that we get to see kind of a bigger, more investment in content that helps stem the gaps between content. And I think what 2020 showed me is that obviously like Final Fantasy as a theme park MMO has its challenges when content has a massive gap in it. That was not on that wasn't their fault. That was everybody has been delayed.
Right.
But I think I would love to see what excites me about the future of 14 is that as they've done with Bozja, like Bozja, it's isolated, right? And I just go, that was a great test. Just bring skirmishes and critical engagements into the world. Like just help me as a player find more things to do that aren't necessarily like Savage. And so one of the things, and we talked about this in a video, and I know like this is my most controversial viewpoint, but I'm loving getting my stats on me. And the thing that sucks about myself parsing is that I can see other people's numbers and I could care less about what other people are doing. Like, I just want to try to improve myself. And when it comes down to that, like, I would love to see that brought into the game itself. I think that would be a very good thing for me. It's controversial because I know a lot of people have a strong opinion about no, because they feel like I don't need it even in real time. Just give me something to where I can try to push myself, and it takes all the content and makes it relevant, because Brian's going to go, because he's a stupid nerd, and he's going to go try to become the best that he can be in the game on that dungeon. And, anyway, but people will abuse it. I'm very well aware that there are assholes in this universe. But then essentially I would love to see an investment in PvP. I think PvP is a piece of content that that can bridge that gap. Like when we talk about like the gap itself, like I shouldn't have to coordinate with like a special Discord if I wanted to PvP in this game. And that would be the two things that I would think that would really excite me. I don't think they're going to do it. I think if you're going to fix PvP, it's got to be done at the core aspect of the game. Happy, you're rolling your eyes. Go ahead.
I'm looking around, looking for a saving grace, and I've yet to find it real quick. Honestly, I think the biggest. A lot of people look at the GCD. They look at the separation of PvP, the lack of meaningful rewards. They're all criticisms. I just want them to stop making 48 and 72. Just make smaller modes. Stop making things that require so many people, because that's why they die.
Yeah.
Just
it needs 72 people. How many are in line? 48. Cool.
Yeah. It's like, just make smaller modes and make more classic modes too. We don't have a capture the flag, a quintessential mode. We got MOBAs and capturing points. Give us capture the flag, please.
You know how I fix PvP? Because Chris and I actually fixed the PvP problem. And we removed healers' ability to heal.
Altogether. We ran it.
I thought you were going to say you ran
as a community thing. No. There just isn't healing. Everybody dies.
Yeah, and it was so much
chaos.
Fun. And it was just like turn healers into green DPS as a part of PvP. It's a separate system in and of itself.
We've already broken the jobs anyway.
Right on. And then essentially, the other rule that we put in for our customs is you couldn't play the same job twice. So it was always kind of changing, but it was just chaos. Like it was, and so you like if you played a tank, you could go whatever. I was like, they really just need to not worry about the roles, because one of the things that we constantly have a problem with is the wait. Like I've enjoyed the PvP, but it's like I go in queue and I'm like 45 minutes. F you. Like I don't like it that much. I can get any other game. I can go play any other game and be in 2 seconds. Yep. I'm going to take the path of least resistance. And so like, I would say like, they should just change that healing aspect, remove the role thing, and just say, go nuts, have fun. And then if you want to create your own custom games, pick a zone and you could go play out in the open world in a thing. So people could actually spectate and watch. So you wouldn't have to be like, well, we're going to do PvP and we're going to stream. It's cool. They got the tools, but the whole esports, the whole, like that was
I love the 1v1s in Boja. I didn't think I would. I thought that I love it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I like getting to spectate.
I also like the fact that everybody's like surrounds the circle and it is like, yeah, let's go. Have you done any 1v1s, Haps?
He's beat them, right?
I have Sword of the South on 2 different characters, which is the title for beating all 3 of them.
Yeah. Oh, nice, man.
Yeah,
I've done a lot of 1v1s. I got 4 Gabriel mounts from 1v1s the other day. That was some nice money.
That's fantastic.
Cool. Because you get 99 chests for winning, right?
Yeah, you get 99 lock boxes for winning a 1v1.
99. I don't know what to do with that.
So it's
you get one from everything else.
It's basically 78 indigo prisms, some worthless materia, and a chance at either tabletop things or parasols or mounts.
Listen, I made a lot of money off those lock boxes. You watch your mouth. It wasn't just the Gabriels.
You watch your mouth.
There's some pets and stuff in there as well.
General purpose die, 400k. I don't know why, but one die is 400k, and people pay for it. So,
yeah, there's a metallic silver die I got today in there. So there's some stuff in there, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
It's all indigo stars though,
but a lot of indigo stars.
A lot of indigo stars,
and you can't macro them. No. So there's no use. I mean, there's no use anyway. But if I could put it in my rotation, where like every time I fell cleave, I get a blue star above my head, I would. It's dumb, but it's like all right, got to go buy 999 more. Or I have to stop veil cleaving. Like I would, but they won't let me macro them.
You just said something and it made me really like remember some of the thing I've enjoyed about every expansion is the continual improvement in terms of like hotbar and how they've like updated the skills and things like that. And there's still, I think some jobs are still a little bit out of whack. Paladin seems like a couple things like that could just have been an upgraded skill that just changes automatically.
Gunbreaker's brand new, and there's so many freaking
Gunbreaker's a lot of fun though. But as far as it goes, like I'm excited to see what they change kind of with the UI. Man, if they like what fall out of my chair moment, like to take it back to the first topic would be if they announce like the lost actions are just generally available in the game.
Like in open world.
Yeah, like just and maybe just like not in Savage content. Like it's like, okay, like we're gonna allow this to be everywhere because it doesn't matter. And then in Savage content, like, okay, you can't have death. We're just not going to allow for that.
I saved a Castrum run this week by being up top, and everybody was going down. And as a Dark Knight, I used 5 raises to raise the various healers multiple times, and that's how we finished the top. I was Dark Knight raising, and then I had Cure 4 and raise because I was like, this isn't going to go well.
Cure 4 is great.
And I was Cure 4ing myself, raising people, and it's like, way to go, Dark Knight. Like, that's awesome.
Oh my goodness gracious! So that kind of brings us to the conclusion of the show. In this case, at least for the final topic, we can kind of shoot the crap here for a few more minutes, etc. Chris, like what else is on your mind? Any kind of thing that any of us said that you want to kind of rehash before we wrap up the show?
No, I think it'll just be nice to start the hype season. This usually starts in November, and so when you look at a standard patch cycle and you look at the fact that we have this, there are times in 14 that, especially if you've been playing for a long time, you have all the jobs you want to cap, you've done all the story and stuff that you want to do, you very quickly can kind of gap out sometimes, and the hype for this is what makes it fun to go back and get that one more relic or get that one missing extreme mount or go back and do something you haven't done. And I'm just ready for this season to officially kind of kick off. Like it just feels, it feels late because it is late. So like, it's not a criticism towards anybody. I'm just ready. Like next week is such a big week, but it's a big week that should have been in November.
You sound like a high school person going to prom for the I'm ready.
I am.
I'm ready.
We're going all the way to 6.0. We're going all the way, Happy.
got my
watching American Pie all over again.
Corsage.
Oh my god. Okay, so one thing he mentioned, constantly over the show, he's mentioned things that are in one piece of content being incorporated into others, such as skirmishes and criticals being in the overworld. Blue Mage has always had dungeon targets, or the weekly targets for the carnival, and I'd like to see that incorporated into dungeon targets for just casual play, for either more tomestones or remix certain rules. And that's the closest thing I think we'll ever get to a Mythic Plus system that always comes up from World of Warcraft, is maybe a gold dungeon target where this week, this dungeon, there's extra mobs, or, all auto attack to the small AoE, or,
it's the deep
something like that.
Of dungeons, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me go to 4.2 of Sastasha.
Yeah. So dungeon targets inspired by Blue Mage's Mass Carnival targets. It's a big thing. I'd like to see.
Absolutely. I think that would be taking that kind of that mid-core content, and then you can kind of keep pushing that further and further, and that the modifiers and just the variety of change. Because one of the things that I think has not aged that well is that after I've run the dungeon like a couple of times, like there isn't anything else that's reminding me back to that dungeon, especially when in patch 5.2 and 5.4 the gear is going to increase for the tomes. So I just as somebody who's like, well, I'm just not going to worry about that. I'm just going to wait till the 0.4 patch to where tomes mean something to me. And so I'm just not going to stress about it before that. And it's been very nice. Like I've enjoyed my time in 14 more because of it. But at the same time, I would love to see like a reason to go and try to that just pick a dungeon. We've got 70, 80 of them. And with the new expansion, easily could have 100 dungeons. Just pick a dungeon, make it level cap, and let's just have fun with it. And just like they're doing with the Unreal Trials, challenge me, in that regard. You could make it a little bit special.
Yeah. That's a big thing I want to see. Believe it or not, Unreal has actually been something of a fascination with me. I've cleared it twice every week. Ever since it came out, I've not missed a week, and it's been interesting showing people the OGs and remembering the OGs and watching people who have no idea what they were all about. And so continuing to expand on the system, some people consider it lazy, and listen, I'm not going to lie. At times it feels lazy, but at the same time, it's also it's also nostalgic for someone, an old timer like me.
Nostalgic and also taking your job and all the new things that they've kind of brought to it.
Oh yeah,
it's fresh and at the same time, nostalgic, which is something very unique because back at the time you're running it, like, yeah, we didn't have a gunbreaker, or they didn't have these kind of skills that were a part of that. And so it does change up the gameplay a little bit, which is pretty exciting because we did Shiva, got our butts kicked because we're like, oh man, it's been forever. And then now I'm only used to running it as a blue mage. So we had to relearn it. And we only did it at the last part of it. And now it's like, okay, I need to make time for that because it's something that I'm really happy that they started to introduce in the game itself. And I'm glad people are engaging with it. Congrats on your 2 clears a week.
We clear we clear content way faster than they can make it, so it feels silly to let content have 1-2 year life cycle and then let it die. So I think the term I think is correctly leverage what's already there. I think that's the phrase, right? You have between trials and dungeons, you have 130 instances or something silly. Like, you're saying, okay, I can only put 1 new dungeon per patch. That's fine, but can you give us 1 Unreal per patch as well? Like, that way we feel that we're getting 2 new things, and you're like, okay, but I don't have to go make something entirely from scratch, all new concept art and all of this. Like, if there's a way to do that and it makes it cheaper for them, we got just as many hours out of Unreal as we do out of Matoya's Relict, and hopefully that costs them less. Yeah.
And the last thing, you brought up Extreme Trials. This is the first expansion I've actually taken to getting all of them. And 5.3's trial was so good, I was like, you know what? I'm going to get all the mounts. And cool. So I am but 99 totems of next patch away from at least being able to buy all the mounts at some point. And it reminds me that one thing I kind of look forward to is I think they're going to start making just weapon coffers drop from trials. I think we have too many jobs at this point. We're going to have too many jobs for certain already. And getting the weapon you want without doing 10 clears, or getting multiple weapons and not seeing the weapons. It took me 92 kills to get my monk weapon by the time I was like looking for my mount. So I think that's another big thing that I'm holding expectations to is a rework.
How you liking the monk changes, by the way?
Oh, listen, it's what I consider the bare minimum to make it fun again. And I hope that they take a more in-depth look at it in Shadowbringers.
Yeah, I agree. I actually was impressed with it back at the media tour when I touched it because I did not like it previous, and then I was like, okay, like I can see that this is coming together a little bit better. And then it's like when they dropped that requirement, I was playing it, putting out the guide for it, and I was like, oh wow, this is actually much cleaner. At least for me as a player, as a non-monk main. And I was like, okay, I like this a lot more. I think it feels a little bit more, it feels faster. Like, it just feels naturally faster. And one of the things that I didn't like about monk is, like, you got to have to get it going. And then it's like, yeah, there you go. So I was like, okay, let's go. That's the perfect analogy without even speaking words. All right, is there anything else we need to hit? Happy, what do you tell people where they can find you and what you got for the event?
You didn't give your closing opinion though. Where's your closing opinion? We did Chris's, we did mine. Where's yours?
I'm looking forward to the game. I have a tendency, it's like, man, like it would be nice if, and it's like I'm just happy that right now I find a lot of joy in trying to improve my gameplay. I've been really enjoying that aspect. I really feel frustrated that it's outside the game and I have to break terms of service to do that. I would just like, okay, that is how it is. I'm going to just deal with it. And if I get in trouble, then I get in trouble. And I'm just going to be like, okay, that's fine. But I've got everything leveled and I'm just looking forward to what's next at the end of the day. I think, I'm really curious to see how PSO2 New Genesis does. I'm really curious to see if a lot of these companies are kind of watching it to see if, like, every game that's been around for over 5 to 10 years struggles with this aspect. It's called a cursed problem in development, or especially in game development, where it's like you can have like your time spent and invested is going to pay off. But at the same time, we also have to get new players in. And so we're going to allow them to get caught up to you pretty daggone fast. So it kind of negates that. That's a cursed issue. And I'm hopeful that what we see with New Genesis might be something we could expect to see in Final Fantasy. Because if it's a system that works, it's great. Because when we look at what doesn't work, Destiny 2 Beyond Light, when they're just like, and we're just deleting stuff out of the game, I think nobody likes that. And then WoW has an interesting setup right now where they just basically lowered the level down. And it's like, I don't,
right. But it has its own set of problems.
It has its own set of problems.
It's good, but also bad.
Yeah. So I think for me, it's going to be really cool to see ultimately what happens, on Friday. So I'm just happy for news, man. It is a bummer though that we aren't all together, like out of Vegas or out in San Diego or whatever. I think that was something that I was particularly looking forward to. And if the next time we're all physically together is in another 2 years, I might actually bring Maddie, because it's so funny, because she'll be like 8 or 9 and it's like, okay, come to this video game nerd thing with me. All right, that I think concludes the show. MrHappy, tell people where they can find you and what you got coming up, so that way they can come hang out with you on the 5th.
You can find me at MrHappy1227 pretty much anywhere. YouTube's actually Xehanort1227 because it's a really old YouTube channel. I made it to hold a MacBook up to a TV screen while I played Kingdom Hearts for the first videos when I was like 17 years old. So that's a walk down memory lane. February is going to be busy. I'm busy now. I've been playing a game called Outward with some friends. It's like you muted yourself, Brian. It's fantastic. I love it. It's a lot more of a it's like Dark Souls meets survival, like with hunger and thirst and diseases and the elements and stuff like that. So I've really been enjoying it. We've been playing with a 4-player co-op mod that lets us break the custom player limit of 2 normally, which is what the game default caps at. That's been a lot of fun playing that with friends. 14 Basia or Delibram on Tuesday. Been prepping that. Outriders demos end of February. Plan on playing that in April. Yes. Genshin still. That has an update next week, right after Delibram, literally the night of. What else? The
Destiny's
announcement
new
stream.
Season starts on the 2nd as well. And
Yeah,
like,
it's going to be kind of rough.
Oh, you suck, Destiny. Like, because it's like you couldn't have waited a week. You got to do the same day as 5. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way. Bravely Default 2 is in February. There's something else in February. I know I played Dauntless, so there's a Dauntless update in February. There's something else that I'm forgetting that's really important. 11's Voracious Resurgence Part 3 is happening, so I've actually been keeping up with that. February's packed, and then March is Monster Hunter, Balan Wonderworld. That's the next several months are no breaks. Just all full throttle.
I need to figure out a way to go full time because I want to put more 11 in my day, and I just can't do it right now. It's like
I don't want to put any more 11 in my day.
But they have the whole the new story, and they're building.
I've got 4 Remas. I don't want to do anymore. I've got 4 relics in that game. I don't want to do anymore.
Oh man, it's a lot of work, but it's like I have such a love for that game, and it's like anytime I go back to it, I have a great time. And everybody's like, I wish you played 11 more. And I go, I wish I could too. Like, it just comes down to it. It'd make it easier if there was like a universal sub for 14 and 11. Just like, let me just pay Square Enix a flat fee, and then I get access. And I'm not sitting here like, oh, here's my 14 sub and my 11 sub, and they bill at different rates. And so that'd be something ideal for me. But yeah. Anyway, Chris, what are your you just went full time, so you're live on Twitch right now.
Yeah. I'm playing 14 and WoW are kind of my 2 games. I've talked about adding a third. I haven't revealed kind of which one I've kind of decided. I've pretty much nailed that down. But it'll be a third MMO. So I'm just enjoying kind of getting more of a broad casual take. So not clearing the savages, the ultimates, the mythics, but instead trying to get a feel for like, okay, what do all 10 tanks feel like across World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy? What do they have in common? What do they not? And I'm enjoying that. So I've got all my tanks to cap in 14. I'm working on getting the last of my relics, and then making sure I'm comfortable with those. I've got 1 tank to get into Shadowlands. All the other tanks are in Shadowlands. So I am on number 10, Paladin on World of Warcraft's the last one. Obviously, this month's huge. it starts off next week with 545, and then there's the big announcement that we just spent all this time talking about. Happy will be covering it live on Twitch with 2 wonderful guests. I'll be here on Twitch with 2 wonderful guests. Mine are Brian and Benny from Comic Storian. We're going to have a good time. And then on the 20th, we have BlizzCon. The one thing I wish Square Enix would do is move to a Square Enix con. Maybe not everybody wants that, but there's enough things that I would love for it to be more annualized, large produced. And like, yes, 14 is a huge piece of that, but like, there's other things going on. It would be a great place for them to have a home field advantage when they want to announce the next thing for Outriders or 16 or whatever that is, where there's already kind of a venue where like, hey, everybody here's a fan. Like you're in with good friends. What do you got for us? So this month's big for us there. And I'm trying to scale up to 7 videos a week on Gaming Kinda, while also helping Brian. We're getting up to 7 videos a week again on Work to Game. So Work to Game's scaling back up on YouTube. Not back to the days of old where we were publishing, every 27 minutes, but we are getting back up to 7 days a week. And it's good to have the podcast back. It's good to have something long form where we can come visit with other creators.
All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks for those of you who are hanging out live on Twitch or here on this like new software in this case.
I'm going to keep going.
Yeah, Chris is going to keep going, so be sure to go hang out with him over on Twitch, or MrHappy is going live here on Twitch this morning as well. Thanks for taking time this morning to come and talk with us for the podcast.
Thank you, Chris, for reminding me late last night before I went to bed.
It's always
I was like, I should probably tell him
that's a good idea.
He knows it, but I'll just tell him.
Yeah, he knows.
It was a good idea.
Anyway, that's going to wrap us up for the podcast. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. If you did, give it a like, share out the show as well. But for Work to Game, for Ginger Prime, for all the crap that I put out on the internet, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Take care.